Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu salamu sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Tariq Khalid. I'd like to welcome to our program here at Sharjah TV on doing good. And we hope and we pray that Allah in His infinite mercy and grace is blessing the believers, as of course He is always blessing the believers. And we hope and pray that you understand it and are thankful and praising Him. And those who are still not in this understanding or under this understanding, that He will guide you to understand and clearly see the path of truth. And we encourage everyone to first speak good. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said more or less, speak good or be silent. Very powerful, direct, short. If we were to think about this and begin to analyze this, let's try to look at it. How do we speak? What are the things that happen generally before we speak? We think, isn't it? Well, of course, we always say some people, they speak before they think. But let's just say we engage our memory in some fashion. We engage our mind in some way. So we need to look at what is the window to our minds. And those are the things which we see and which we hear. So if we're talking about doing good, then it comes clear, doesn't it, that we should try to see things and listen to things which are beneficial. An attempt to refrain from involving ourselves in those actions which, based on our belief system, are not good. Now, let's look at what are we facing? What are the challenges in relationship to? Some people say, well, that's not very easy to do. Well, one of the reasons is that our desires are such. And these vehicles, these instruments, the one that you're looking at presently, are invitation away from the commandments of Allah. Now, today we're talking about the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if we were to look at this particular instrument and how it is used globally, how much time is spent reminding people of their Lord, reminding people of their duties to their Lord. And even if you're looking at a particular station, how many stations are there compared to those which are guiding us astray? And what is our inclination? Our desires. And we must understand something, that Satan is very busy, but also our desires are such that we have to discipline ourselves. Satan realizes and understands our desires. So what is he doing? He is trying to exploit us with his intention. We need to understand that, because many people, he has fooled them. And they say, oh, brother, this is rubbish. There's no Satan. Sure, there is good and bad in the world, but your paradise, your hellfire is here. Look at the people. Some people, it's obvious, isn't it? Some people are living fantastic, luxurious lives, and some people, their lives are horrific, to say the least. You have choices as to how you want to live, and it is dependent upon your own efforts, your own discipline, what it is that you're willing to do. And of course, there is a certain amount of truth in that, even though some of us are more privileged than others, naturally. But at the same time, we need to understand something. What about the people who are privileged? But even with all the privileges and all of the abilities that Allah has granted them, they still become tools of Satan. What about that? And at the other end of the scale, what about the person who doesn't have all of the abilities, all the resources? His resources were very limited. His natural abilities were very limited, but his discipline and his belief system is steadfast, and he has persevered through all types of hardships and difficulties to achieve an aim. And he stayed focused on this aim and not been led astray one way, left or right. So we see this in all of us who have lived long enough to be on this earth for some years, let's say more than 50 years, and have, I think, pretty much experienced this in one way or another. So how do we answer that? That it is not necessary that opportunities and resources make the person a believer or a person's life fulfilled or even successful, for whatever the terminology that you might use or agree to what a success is. But ultimately, we want every person to be successful and every person to have the real and ultimate success. All of this world is limited. Our time in this world is limited. We're talking about our hereafter, our eternity. The person who doesn't believe in eternity, then he has done something, he's done harm to himself. He has limited his own existence. If he has become intoxicated, for example, with the things of the world and distracted by them, as many people are, and as a result of that, he's lost the reality of the eternity which he's facing. He's of the opinion that everything is the here and now. So he's living like that, not thinking that this is just the first stage of his existence. And you might say the second stage, or we could say the first stage is in the womb. But we have to have that reality, and we have to have that belief. And Satan is very busy dealing with our desires and whispering and encouraging us to follow our desires and not pay attention to the truth. Just what I'm saying to you now, think about it. How many people want to listen? If you're listening now, do you want to change the channel? Do you want to look at something else? Is there some insinuation? Do you feel that there's something that's drawing you to something other than what I'm saying? Is there something about me personally that offends you? And as a result of that, your inclinations, well, let's cut this guy off. I don't really want to listen to that. That's rubbish. And I don't like that guy. I don't like the way he looks. I don't like the way he talks. I don't like it, as an example. Think about it. Put it in perspective. Is it really that? Is it really me? Or is it that you don't want to address this issue? And that issue is to stay focused on the good for your life. Every day, every minute of the day, to do your best to see that which is good, to hear that which is good, to think that which is good, to speak that which is good, and to act in a fashion that is good. Think about those processes what I just mentioned, and from 0 to 10, judge yourself. Where do you stand in all of those actions? Where do you stand? So somebody would say, well, that's not important. I don't have to be good in these areas. And what difference does it make? Is it really important? Did I become a good person? Did I speak good? Did I think good? Did I see good? I listen? I act in a good way? Is it really important? And if it isn't important, who will I impact one way or the other? Whether I am acting, my behavior is such or not. Why does it matter? Well, it matters for the sake of your own soul. We have to primarily be concerned about my condition. What will be my condition when I come before my Lord? If I am limited in my understanding, limited meaning that I think that this existence is it and everything will be over, then that is very, very limited. And you need to study and find out more about what is real and what isn't, and how you're being misled, and who is misleading you. We need to understand that man will live forever. Just as our Lord created us, similarly, he can create us to live forever. This body, no. But we will have another body that will not be like this one. It will not die. After death, we'll be revived in a new form. That body will not die. We will have choices. Only two. Only two. Paradise, hellfire. No in between. But now we have a choice. And just think about it. If the average person was focused just on doing good every day, what would be the condition? Let's just take our community. Let's not look at something big like the world. Let's look at the community where we live. Just where we live. What would be the impact in our community? Let's say within, let's make it small, 20-block radius as an example. What would be the impact in that 20-block radius of the interaction between the people? And this I'm talking about without the blessing from Allah, which we don't know on what level that will be. That just if we were to engage ourselves on a daily basis with this concern, that I just want to do good for my neighbor, by my neighbor. I want to speak good. I want to think good about them. I want to pray for them. And when I see them, I want to inspire them. And each neighbor had this in mind in a 20-block radius. Just imagine what kind of community that would be. So ultimately, all of us want to be happy. Don't we think that if we make the effort to make Allah happy with us, our Creator happy with us, that He will impact our lives in those who we interact with, in our environment in a fashion that would respectively be similar? The assistance of Allah will come in this manner based on our efforts. And I ask you a question. Have you ever thought about that? That today, I just want to think positive. I want to think good. I'm going to cancel out all negative thoughts. Whatever negative thoughts come into mind, I'm going to be blindfolded. I'm going to cast them out. And I'm just going to say positive, positive, positive. For example, so that I become a positive person, that whatever difficulties or negativity comes into my life, I will not let it overpower me. That I will look to resolve it by positive actions, positive thoughts, positive studies. Sight, hearing. Today, we have a kind of pollution. We have noise pollution, and we have eye pollution. And that those two have an impact on mental pollution. Sure, think about it. How many times have you just been looking at something on the internet, and then something or someone comes across the screen and says something which is completely 180 degrees away from what you're focusing on at that time? Or an invitation to something which is very far away from anything that you would like to be invited to. Or you happen to be in the street and a car passes by and his boombox is so loud that you could hear it in your house. And it's just as though the car itself is dancing, as an example. That's one thing. But then you hear the lyrics. And the lyrics are encouraging people to evil. So now you've invited listening disorders, for lack of a better description, and your sight you're absorbing. What is the impact of this on your mind when you begin to absorb these things on a regular basis? So we need to think about this. So we need to reorganize ourselves. Think about what is good for me, what is not good for me. And people say, I know what's good for me, and I know what's not good for me. But I ask you a question to ask yourself. Have you sat down at any time in your life and just written, this is what's good for me? And written, I found that this is not good for me. And then just look at it. So I'm going to suggest that for every person. Take one A4 paper and just sit down and itemize. Number one, this is good for me. And just continue until you fill the paper to as many things as you possibly can think of come to mind. And put it up on the wall. Take another A4 paper, same thing. This I found in my life is not good for me. Everything, food that you may eat, people that you come in contact with, places, smells, taste, hearing, sight, anything that you found over the years is just not good for you. It's not a good thing. The impact on it is negative for you. And put it up. And then just look at it. Because you can't generally do this with a screen, even though we might do one or the other on the screen. But I found if you take just a piece of paper, A4 paper, or flip chart paper if it's bigger, and put it up, now you begin to see other aspects of your life as these things come together. Think about it. Try it. And then focus on the good that's in your life and the good that you want to come into your life and how you want to engage people with this so that you become a beacon of light for people in your community. My name is Tariq Khalid. I'd like to thank you for joining us here at Sharjah Media Corporation. And keep doing good. And you will be happy, inshallah ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.